Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Nikita. I work on Clojure for quite a few years, and today I'll be talking about Clojure UI. Where should I stay? Here, there, like, it's okay. Here, okay, great. Yeah, so if you're talking about UI, so there's three main areas where you can, like, how you can implement your UI. Like, there's web, there's mobile, and there's desktop. And my opinion is that web and mobile spaces are like quite solved. Like at least there's a lot of attention and a lot of solutions, so you have something to choose from, and they don't really need our help that much. Desktop though is a different story. Like if you want to develop desktop application without going through web or mobile, like what options do you have? Well, one option is native, right? So you can go native, but it will probably be expensive, complicated, like you need to coordinate several teams, team for Windows, team for Mac, team for Linux. And it's also kind of pointless. So you implement the same, you're trying to convince computer to do the same thing three different times in three different ways, like, and then getting the same result. Like, why? There's no reason to do that. And lately, also, like, native had its peak at some point, but now I don't know. Even vendors of operating system don't understand what is native. Like, this is all from Windows, like, and like all native menus. What does it mean? Nobody knows. The second option is cross-platform, right? And for that we have Qt, which is C++, which is unfortunate, of course. Java UIs, the Java UIs have very bad track record. Like they kind of worked, I guess, in their time, but none of them happened to actually make it into mainstream programming. Like there is no popular program application written in Java, except JetBrains, but it costed them. And of course, Electron. So like, basically, the only sane option if you want to develop only realistic option, let's say, native application today is Electron, which is okay. Well, at least we have one, right? But it has its downsides. You get 2 threads at max. Like, yeah, the threading is complicated in Electron, and it's unfortunate. You're limited by JavaScript performance. You're limited by DOM performance because, like, browsers are not optimized for speed, and it's really hard to change them and optimize them. There's no low-level control, which means you can do buttons and layout, but if you want to control deeper control, you have to throw it all away and do it yourself, like for example Figma does. But there are downsides, but there are also upsides. So what did Electron teach us? One thing it taught is that people do want applications, right? So even though you can use any of these applications in a browser, like just open new tab and go to the website and use them, people still prefer to have an icon in the tray. I don't know why, but it's just how it is, right? It's still the same browser, it just looks a little different. The idea of applications still lives. The second thing that Electron teaches us that people seem to be okay with non-native UI. And what I mean is, like, for 10, 20 years, people thought that this is a button, only this is a button, and everything else, like button has to look like this, right? And today it doesn't matter. Like any colored rectangle with a label is a button, and it's okay. Like I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's where we are at, right? People just are used to websites, to web applications, and to design craziness of flat style and whatever. But anything can be a button, and this opens some possibility for us. And yeah, the third lesson from Electron is there is no good alternative. So as I said, it's the only solution, like only realistic solution right now. Which is sad, and this is why I want to change it a little bit, try to change it by developing the second, the option for developing desktop application, which is in Clojure. It's called Humble UI. Yeah, and this is its logo. And this is basically UI framework for desktop applications. So we are aiming specifically for desktop. Like the first question everybody asks me, like, can I run it in the web? No, the idea is not to run it on the web because we have solutions for web. There's no point to trying that. It's aimed to take place of Electron, like in the sense, like I need some way to develop application. You take this package, Humble UI, write some code in Clojure instead of JavaScript, and you get your application, you get your icon, people download it, run it, and that's it. With the exception of not having any JS, not having any DOM, and as a consequence, not being limited by them. Not having browser at all, so there is no browser, no JavaScript, nothing. It's native JVM and Clojure, and that's it. So before I start explaining how it works and what's cool about it, I figured I'll show you a little demo, and basically there's like this application itself is written in Humble UI. This window is created by Humble UI. There are like and all these controls and everything. Yeah, and a few controls here, like the button, text edit, checkbox, toggle, slider, and stuff like that. So all the usual stuff. Yeah, like that's Humble UI. That's how it looks, how it works for now at least. Okay. Yeah. The first important piece of Humble UI architecture is Skia, and Skia is graphics library that is used in Chrome. I think it started as Chrome. It started either in Chrome or Android. Yeah, and it's still used there. Like, and Flutter is based on it. LibreOffice, Avalonia, like a lot of stuff is based on it, right? Because of that, like it has a proven track record of being enough for such big projects, so probably it will be enough for us, right? If you can build something in Chrome, you can draw it in Skia probably. So it's fast as well because Chrome has to be fast, Android has to be fast, and everything else. So like it's a kind of guaranteed to be fast, right? It's modern because of Chrome. So it's like it's kind of a safe bet. Like how do you draw lines and put text on the screen and stuff like that? Well, we use the same stuff that Chrome uses, so we'll probably be good for as long as Chrome exists. Yeah, and it has backends. It talks directly to video driver through OpenGL, DirectX, Metal, Vulkan, WebGPU, what have you. And what it gives you basically like primitives like rectangles, rounded rectangles, lines, triangles, and shaders, stuff like that. Like really foundational stuff, but not yet enough to build UI, of course. Here I have for your demonstration. When I click debug info, so here you can see in the edge. I hope you can see the frame time, which is under 1 millisecond usually, which means like 1000 FPS or more. No, wrong button. And if I press this button, this is like every slide in presentation. Yeah. How do I, and again, you see like this all is renders under a millisecond, so it's like it's fast enough. Where were we? I'm lost. Yeah, okay. So, but this caching preview, like if I toggle this off and go back, the frame time goes a little bit up, like 3 milliseconds now, right? And what happens now is like every slide is rendered from scratch. Like there is no caching, it's not cached as textures or something like that. It's Like everything is from scratch. Like every SVG, like all the graphics is SVG, almost all graphics is SVG, all text, every letter is rendered right now on screen, and it's still like way under 60 frames, over 60 frames per second. So like it's just fast enough, right? You don't probably need to worry about that. So like after a few runs, like so far I haven't seen a problem that was limited by performance of graphics. So that's good, I guess. Clojure is like wraparound Skia for Java, because like Skia is C++. We need something to use it from Clojure, and so I wrote a library that wraps it for Java. So you can use it from any JVM language, really, Kotlin, Scala, or Clojure. JWM is a window management library. Basically, it's responsible for like creating a window in operating system, cross-platform, also interacting with like, I don't know, stuff like screens, I don't know, operating system APIs like notifications, eventually, like not yet, but eventually. So all the OS integration, right? Also from Java. Yeah, that's Java in the title. It's also written from scratch because there isn't a good way to do that stuff cross-platform. Like we looked at different existing solutions, but they're not good. Like there are gaming libraries like SDL or GLFW. There's AWT, which is old, and we had to build it ourselves. It's aimed at modern capabilities like the operating systems as they are today, with high DPI and color management and stuff like that. We want all that to be accessible under your control. Like vSync, color profiles, multi-monitor stuff, and high DPI. Because like, for example, when AWT was created, this stuff didn't exist, and it has to be patched over, and it's hard to do that from AWT, for example. But we want that. Like, we want to be able to do everything that native application can. So like there is no, you don't, so that you wouldn't have to make a choice like, do I want like limited capabilities but cross-platform, or do I go native? Like we want you to go cross-platform but still be able to do everything you can do in native. Indistinguishable from native. And high quality, of course. We want high quality. Nobody wants low quality. So this is again the same stuff. I think this works. The same diagram, just like now that you kind of know, but what's what. So this is graphics hardware drivers for your computer. On top of it is Skia with Clojure. Here there's like operating system APIs, we like compatibility layer between Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. These two are Java, and on top of that there is like Clojure API, and on top of that sits Humble UI, basically which uses all of that to bring you widgets, mouse events, and stuff like that. All the usual stuff. Now finally about Humble UI. So it's not immediate mode or pure functional. It's like nothing fancy. So the idea was to get UI framework, but not experiment. Like make it practical, right? Not experiment too much. Like it's not OP, of course. It's a joke. We have mutable state and component tree and stuff like that. The idea is to make it practical. So like I would rather be able to build everything that I want instead of like having to follow like some model of, I don't know, pure functional or something like that. And the dream is like you can build application indistinguishable from native, which of course not true because we don't use native widgets. We draw everything ourselves, so it will be like native quality, but like look like, I don't know, web page. But much better. Okay, and that would be not that interesting if we didn't do some stuff differently, right? So it's like I didn't want to like just make a UI framework and have no new ideas. Just well, even that would be, I guess, useful. But yeah, of course, we want some extra ideas on top of that. Like the first thing that I want to fix compared to web, like web is my, in a sense, nemesis. Like I hate how complicated web is and how little you can do with it. And then we want to do better than web can. Okay, so the first thing that we want to fix is layout. Humble UI layout is inspired by Flutter layout, which is also very simple, and it has only two modes. Basically, parent says to the child how big it should be, and then basically just like, yeah, hey child, draw with this size. Or child chooses their own size and tell it to their parents. Like parent, like, hey child, how big are you? And I am that big. Okay, and then do something with it. So it's basically all you need to lay out, well, almost everything, I think. And yeah, and the wonderful thing about it is by having, you can have APIs this simple and still be able to do everything that web does, and maybe more even, and still control like low level like layout. Okay, so yeah, I have example here, vertical centering stuff that you supposed not to do in web. And this is how you achieve that. Basically, you start with just component. If you start with component without anything, it will be stretched to take all the space because like you have space. You haven't instructed it to do anything with it, so it will just fill the space. In this case, like parent, which is window, tells the child like how big it should be, and child has to follow. If you wrap it in v-align, which is vertical align, basically v-align is this light red component which takes everything, but it consults child, how tall it is, and then centers it inside, right? If you wrap it in h-align, like double wrap it, then finally you get it centered in the center. Yeah, so like h-align does the same thing, but horizontally. It consults the child, how wide it is, and then centers it. And if you put one into another, you end up with a centered component. Or you can swap them, like there's no problem. Like you can do it this way or the other way. Both work, and it looks simple, but it was a little bit tricky to set up, but now it works, and I think it's very beautiful system when you can like nest components and get layouts and do stuff that you can't do in the web and do it much simpler without having like to hard code anything or stuff like that. You have UI center, of course, so like centering is just needed so often, so there's a shortcut, which is under the hood does. The second killer feature that we have in Humble UI is composable components. And idea here is, let me see. Yeah, okay, so idea, again, this is like a little bit, I'm still fighting the web. I don't want to repeat what web does and do stuff better. And what we have in the web is you have a lot of stuff that is very high level, like button tag, for example. It has a lot of behavior and a lot of styles inside baked in that you cannot undo. Like you only have an option to use it all together or not to use it at all, right? Or partially undo stuff and then do your own, which is a little bit annoying and error prone and stuff like that. So instead, what we want to do in Humble UI is make small reusable pieces of behavior and combine them to get bigger components, which will bring you, like, if they're combined and are shipped with UI, you get a high-level component, like a button, or low-level as well, like draggable, clickable, rectangle, and stuff like that. And we want to, like, have both of those, like, be in public API of Humble UI, which will let you hopefully build your own components. Okay, skip that. Like, again, an example. Like, if you want to make this button, right, just rounded rectangle button, in Humble UI, you have something like this. And actually, we do have something like this. Like, this is like a button that is shipped by default, and it has round corners. And like, it's implemented inside Humble UI. You get this, right? You have button, and you can use it from your code, no problem. But you also can use each of those components that make it, right? So there's hoverable, clickable, round rectangle, just rectangle, padding, center, and label, right? Every single of these components you can use. Actually, label and center and padding, like, all of them are very useful, actually. So, like, we get a lot of reuse from that. But like, what if you want a different button like this with slanted edges instead of rounded ones, right? For example, if you were on a web, like, no luck. There is no option to do edges like this. And actually, like, this slide was about properties. Like, every HTML element has all these properties optionally. Like, you can, like, on div, on span, on button, on href, on anything, you can specify any of this. And like, they come just as a baseline, as default. But there is no slanted edges, so you're out of luck. In Humble UI, though, you just take the same code, you throw away this rounded rectangle and instead do diagonal rectangle or something like that. I don't know how to call it, but yeah, you just swap it and build your own button from the same pieces, like Lego pieces, replacing just one, and you get what you want. If you want a shadow, you add in here somewhere a shadow inside, right? So, like, basic button that ships with Humble UI doesn't have any of this. Like, doesn't have shadow, doesn't have slanted edges, corners, sorry. But because every piece is reusable and we publish it as an API, part of the API, you can do that. And I think it's a better way to make UIs, right? So basically, you have all the same capabilities that, like, UI framework designer had when they was designing stuff. Yeah, and it repeats basically what I just said. It's like small components are easier to write, easier to combine. They have less reasons to change, right? So, like, if you, I don't know, like, center, for example, will always be center. Like, there is no options to add to, like, modify it. Like, it's just center, right? Or label. It's so simple. There is no reason to change it. So yeah, they have less reason to change. So if you depend on them, your stuff will continue to work for longer. They're more likely to fit your problem. Again, yeah, if something doesn't fit your problem, you throw it away, use different. You replace one small part instead of replacing everything or rebuilding everything from scratch, and they require less defaults undoing. So, like, if you work with web, you probably know about reset CSS. When you, like, the first thing you do with your UI, you undo everything that browser does by default, and then you only can start doing your stuff. We have different model. We want you to just build your stuff without, like, having to consider, like, oh, button also has shadow, so we have to remove shadow first. No, I don't want to remove shadow. I want you to add shadow when you need it and not having it at all when you don't need it. Third feature of Humble UI is text metrics. This also we're doing very differently that almost everybody is doing right now. So on the web, on native, on basically everywhere, like in graphics editor and Figma and Sketch, Photoshop, when you draw a string of text, it will have boundaries like rectangle, and the boundaries will be like that, right? there is extra space on top and extra space on bottom around it. And that space is basically arbitrary. It's defined by font designer. It's actually also different on different operating systems. On Windows and Mac OS, it might be specified to different sizes, which is also not very, it's crazy. But the point is there's extra space. So if you type a word and try to lay out a text and you want to, the text block, use it like as a rectangle, you will have space here and here, right? And which is all, usually it's okay, but it leads to some problems, which I will show after this, which are really hard to solve. And usually designers don't care about it, but they don't care because they don't care about it because it's hard to work with. If it were easier to work with, everybody would do it much simpler and better. And what we do in Humble UI instead, we make text block like this. Its height is defined by capital letter height, cap height so-called. There's a little bit of overdraw for senders and descenders, which is usually okay because you almost never have like text block alone. You usually have padding around it, so it will not be a problem anyways, but it makes a lot of stuff much, much easier. Okay, so first example is vertical centering stuff. So it's harder to see here, but if you do this approach in a button, you'll end up with, like, you see the space to key here is bigger than here, right? So there's a little bit overlap here. And Humble UI, if you just center using normal center, like which can center rectangles, I don't know, anything, and text as well, you get perfectly centered text, and you don't have to worry about it. If you want to label your image, like you have a layout where you have image and next to it like a label, in web you will have this gap, which designers sometimes try to get rid of. In Humble UI you just don't get it at all, like it's just perfectly horizontally aligned. Also, if you're familiar with web, there are like several ways to center icon next to a label. There is like baseline alignment, center, top, bottom, and probably more. In Humble UI, you just like you center and that's it, because like they are perfect rectangles. And in web, it's sometimes annoying because none of them does what you do. So you center and then padding top 1 or something like that. Imagine -1. It's very annoying. If you know, you know. Just trust me. Okay. And we have a lot of ideas as well to implement with Humble UI, like white color gamut, open type features, okay, lab, blah, 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 blah. These are all in various stages of readiness, but certainly planned, right? So I want to be like the latest and best what computers can offer us. I want it all be in. I care about fonts, I care about colors, I like design, stuff like that. So yeah, I hope we will get it right. Maybe it will not be as noticeable, but I hope it will make a difference. And last important feature is that we are planning to be Clojure first, right? So like the proposition of Humble UI, one of it is that we make in UI framework for desktop, but the second one is it will be for Clojure, right? So which is relevant for this conference, I guess. Because I love Clojure, that's a good reason. Because Clojure is high level, easy to use, it's fast. It has threads installed, unlike JavaScript, right? So like it's crazy that we all agreed to have machines that have like, I don't know, 8 cores and only use 1. It's I don't know. It's so sad, and I still can't believe it. But yeah, we can use all the resources of your computer for your application. It's such simple thing. And it has a REPL. So like, yeah, this slide is basically why Clojure is a good reason to build UI framework. And I actually believe that this Clojure has unique combination of REPL and being high level, that it fits best for UI development. And if you, okay, yeah, there's a typo. The power doesn't, it's not spelled like that. Okay, so sorry. Yeah, oh, REPL. But yeah, I worked on web, on ClojureScript, on Figwheel. I didn't work with Shadow.js. I worked before Shadow.js, but with Figwheel, and I know how game-changing it is to having REPL connected and reloading and not losing state for UI development, because like you always fiddle with things. You move it 2 pixels to the right. You change red shade of red a little bit, right? You play a lot, and you do a lot of iterations. The way to good UI is doing a lot of quick iterations, and you can't do it anywhere except in Clojure, like properly. I mean, yeah. You probably, yeah, you probably know this, like instant feedback. You know what REPL is, right? But what you might not know, if you, for example, work with backend, I don't know, or haven't tried Figwheel, Shadow.js, how game-changing it is to use it for UI. And this is Swift UI, and basically on the left I add padding to the button right here. And this is the only change I do. I just add some padding, and this is how like live reload works here. And it's like it's flickering. The label disappears. There's like some rectangle. I don't know what happens. Like but you see how hard it tries, and like it still can't. Right? It's like it takes a lot of time. It's probably recompiles something under the hood, and it looks super annoying. And for like here, you just let me keep both on the screen. This slide, right? It's like, it's instant, it's like there's no flickering, no extra frames or anything. Like anything that you don't expect doesn't happen. It's just instant, and I think it's beautiful, like that. Yeah, look what they have to do to limit a fraction of our power. Yeah, and this is superpower, I think. Like, yeah, I think every UI framework should have live reload, should have REPL, and it should be like built in from the ground. It should be planned from the start, not like an afterthought one. Oh, we have a nice UI framework, but you have to wait 30 seconds for it to recompile. Let's figure out what we can do about that. No, it should be like from the start. Otherwise, it will probably not feel that good. So REPL and Clojure and UI is basically, it's the main reason why I started this endeavor, right? So because it's unique and it's so good, I think it could be a game changer. Current status of Humble UI. It is in active development. It's been for a year now, which is longer than I prefer, but it is as it is. It's pre-alpha. Everything changes a lot, and we are missing a lot of, not a lot, but we are missing some important pieces which are planned but not there yet. So you can play, you can build some applications, like as I said, this slide deck is built with it, for example, but it would be probably very rough, right? You can help if you want. It's open source, its contributions are very welcome. Some areas where we can use some help is OS integration, especially testing on Windows or Linux. I have macOS. macOS is in a better shape probably than Linux or Windows is. Yeah, we're missing rich text editor. We're missing rich text in general. Yeah, I was planning to have it for this presentation, like I edit the code directly in the slide and it updates, but didn't have the time. There's some stuff, like this is stuff we need to work on before we consider it good enough for people to try out. Basically, there's distribution like packaging and shipping it as an application, zip file, or testing as well. Probably will come later, but it's still useful. There's contacts for, oh yeah, I'm just our. There's a GitHub organization. We have multiple projects, so like it's GitHub/HumbleUI/HumbleUI or /something else, Kija and stuff like that. You have Slack channel where respond usually. You have my Twitter, no HumbleUI Twitter specific. And if you have any questions, I will take them now. Thank you.
My experience with Java UI frameworks is that they're kind of slow and sluggish. At least that's what I experienced when I tried in 2013 or something.
Yeah.
Why is Humble UI fast? How did you make that?
So they slow for, I don't know, for different reasons, I guess. So when I started Humble UI, I first looked at Swing and JavaFX. Yeah, I had the same experience. They're slow, they do weird things, like with high DPI, for example. AWT graphics 2D, I think was slow. Like graphics itself was slow, and I have some measurement for that. JavaFX graphics was better, but yeah, I don't know why it was slow. Humble UI, I have so far haven't seen any reason for it to be slow, as I demonstrated with performance counters. Like we're hitting 120 FPS easily, and yeah, it's been good so far. Like probably I don't know what Java did wrong, but yeah, yeah, that's my answer.
Are there any limitations to make it a truly native, like using GraalVM? Is there anything that would prevent that?
No, GraalVM is possible. We don't have it yet, but somebody did run JWM, which is our window integration, and it does work. So we think that Humble UI, basically we need just package Clojure into that as well, which should be possible. We know Clojure is packageable. I was worried about native interfaces, but JWM has native code, and it is compiled fine with GraalVM, so it's certainly possible. Yeah, that's actually that's one of the problems with Clojure is startup time, and that's GraalVM is one of the my plan to deal with it. Yeah, basically, because starting for a second is not ideal.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a bit about what you think about transitions and animations, and also about long scroll lists, like a Slack app that has like a long chat or something.
Yeah.
There are optimizations in place for
yeah,
that.
transitions and animations are we don't have anything special for it yet. We have like basically one of the bases was to getting vsync support right. For example, like AWT doesn't have it at all. JavaFX has it wrong. It just does. I don't know why. But yeah, we made sure to have vsync right. So we render when there is like when display refreshes, we render at that moment, not more often, not less often. So we get like hopefully every frame when it has to be. So animations kind of smooth as long as you don't do like long stuff in it, right? We don't have model of like state yet, finished at least. So like there's no component like animate this or animate that. And the second one was long list. For that we will have virtual lists eventually. Not yet though. And yeah, when I was actually when I was demoing this, I was supposed to say that even though there is scroll here, like everything is rendered. So for now, there is no optimization for that. So, but there will be for sure. I know about that problem. Yeah, there will be.
Hi Nikita, it's a great work, and I'm wondering about the JavaFX has a lot of libraries, like for charts and for game development, and I know that your Humble UI is now actively development, but maybe in the future, or it's a question not for you, it's like for a community, but maybe is there some libraries useful for development, charts, game development, and so on in the future? Thank you.
Hopefully in the future, yeah, but not right now. And I have like probably bridging something from JavaFX to Humble UI will be hard. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm not sure, yeah, I don't know. But hopefully, like either, like, yeah, this is there's a huge problem with Humble UI is that it's new and it requires everything from scratch, right? So it's like a long road ahead. Will it be like feasible or not? I don't know.
Is it possible to make maybe a wrapper around the JavaFX, but maybe it's kind of strange? But wrapper is...
No. Yeah. One way to solve this is to bring existing components into Humble UI, basically embedding them, right? And it's probably possible. What we did experiment with is wrapping Swing components in Skia. So basically Swing, like we haven't tried JavaFX, but we have tried Swing. And Swing has like this graphics 2D. You can implement graphics 2D using Skia. So you basically can embed like Swing components in this stuff. And they kind of works, like we've seen that, right? With JavaFX, probably similar situation, hopefully. I haven't tried, but I hope it's similar.
Wondering about the stuff you were talking about earlier on with Dart and Flutter. Obviously, they're doing Clojure Dart now. Maybe there's a place there, because obviously Dart and Flutter is going to be a huge ecosystem, it's burgeoning. Is that something you're thinking about?
Yeah. Clojure, Flutter is certainly doing a great job. But like the problem with Flutter is that it's Dart, right? So, I want like Clojure because I know Clojure, I like Clojure, I don't want Dart. And I believe like nobody wants Dart really, but they have to use it. And like for example, this slide, Dart actually handles this stuff way better than Swing UI. It's good, I've tried, but not Clojure Dart. Clojure Dart, as I remember, was a little bit sluggish, but Flutter is great. They kind of aim at the similar thing, with the exception that Flutter is mobile first, not desktop first. So there is like desktop comes second for them. That's a problem. Probably not a huge one, and probably maybe it will catch up. And the second thing is Clojure Dart has like too many moving parts in my opinion, right? So Clojure on a Dart is not native. Dart is like different platform, which its limitations, and they have to do a lot of stuff differently. You can probably use a lot of libraries from JVM. It's a way, like it's a different way to do the same thing, obviously, maybe with different trade-offs. So I want to try more straightforward way. Basically, the idea of this is that we try to build stuff directly instead of like wrapping something around something, and instead of increasing complexity, like decrease it and go to the source and like implement everything from scratch. Basically what Flutter did with Dart, right? So they like threw away all this like UI kit and stuff, and like we'll implement everything ourselves, but we also will have direct control over everything, and it will end up being a better user experience for developer and for users as well, because you can like dig in and edit everything and change everything and control everything. So yeah, it's the same idea but applied to JVM.
Thank you. Just a bit of topic question. So how big is a minimal application?
Yeah, we don't have packaging yet, so we can't package it into .app or anything. But code-wise, it's very small. Let me show you something. So the main looks like, but this is code-wise, but like basically start up, start a window, pass some like title, BG color, and then you have to define a constant like this, like application, and it has stuff like theme, probably this is required, and that's more or less it. So like, at least API-wise, it's useful. It's small enough. But if we talk in packaging, you will have to package JVM, yeah, Clojure, and this stuff, which is it's small-ish. I think the biggest part would be Skija, which packages ICU, like Unicode library, which is 10 megs, and there's no way to get rid of it, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the biggest part. Mm-hmm.
Do you have sufficient funding for Humble UI?
Right now, ROM Research is sponsoring it, and I have GitHub sponsors as well from like people, developers. For now, yes. Going into the future, like I don't know, we'll see. But so far it's been good, yeah, for a year.